Hi everyone, welcome to our flipped lesson on glazing. As our monsters begin to dry, we will need to begin to start thinking about the types of colors of glaze we will be using. This is the fun part, but we will also need to think about what type of glaze you will want to use. So here is some information you will need to help you before you start adding color. There are two types of glazes, underglaze and low fire glaze. Can you guess when the underglaze might be applied? Just take a guess. This is just to see what you already know. If you guessed before your clay piece is fired, you guessed right. Underglaze is applied before your piece is fired and comes out looking matte after the firing. A cool feature about underglaze is that you can mix underglaze colors together and create another color. So for instance, if I have blue and red, I can mix it to make purple or even tweak it to make more red-violet by adding more red than blue or blue-violet by adding more blue than red. Underglaze is also pretty great at maintaining the same color as when you apply it. Low fire glaze is a type of glaze that is applied after your clay piece has been fired once. Do you remember what stage your clay piece is in after it has been fired once? Just take a guess. If you remembered bisqueware, you remembered well. So low fire glaze is applied to bisqueware or a piece that has gone through its first firing. Low fire glaze cannot be mixed like the underglaze, but has some cool effects like color bursts or even changing on a texture. Low fire glaze can be applied on top of underglazes after it has been fired, but you will need to be careful when you apply it so the glaze doesn't run in the kiln. But we will talk more about that later. When looking at the bottles of glaze, you might get confused by which is which. To help you try to determine which glaze is which, underglaze will be labeled as underglaze while low fire glaze will be labeled as cone 06 or possibly cone 5, cone 10, but it will be a cone with a number. Before applying glaze and when your piece is closer to bone dry, you will need to scrub off any unnecessary clay with the blue and white scrub brushes by the sink. Before they are fired, be careful when scrubbing because your piece can easily break. After the first firing, you still want to scrub off any unnecessary clay dust, but you could be not as careful with it since it has been fired and is more solidified. Both types of glazes are applied about the same. They can both be painted on with a paintbrush and are generally applied 2 to 3 times. This means you will be applying 2 to 3 layers of the glaze to your ceramic piece. It's generally a good idea to apply 3 layers, but if you are overlapping low fire glaze on top of underglaze, you may want to do 3 layers of an underglaze and 2 layers of low fire. If you forget how many layers, usually the container will recommend how many times. When applying with the paintbrush, use a larger paintbrush for larger areas and a smaller brush for those finer details. So, what's expected from you for your pinch pot monster? Part of the rubric looks at your glazing. You will be graded on applying both underglaze and low fire glaze appropriately. So before we fire our pieces, we will underglaze. After the first firing, or bisque firing, we will be applying the low fire glaze. After watching this video, please answer the following questions. These questions will not be graded, but will help address if this needs to be demonstrated in class. Thank you.